Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Welcome to your Enhancement Talent review for the SmackDown debut on Fox. And with this, we are not going to waste any time. We are going to get straight into the main topic at hand. And that is the main event. The main event was Brock Lesnar versus Kofi Kingston for the WWE Championship. Oh my God. So we get here. There's about 6 minutes of TV time left. This match started and ended. Kofi Kingston ran into the waiting arms of Brock Lesnar, was hit with one F5, and was promptly pinned 1, 2, 3. There was no match, so even though leading into this, we all talked about how this was the first match that Brock Lesnar will participate in on free television since 2004. And that is the way it stayed after this. Because this was not a match, this was a move. And it is time to just fucking rant about this. Kofi Kingston has been WWE Champion since WrestleMania, about 6 months ago. Kofi hasn't had the best luck as far as being able to have a worthy opponent that he's able to really garner interest from, but I don't put any of that on him. And this stuff with Brock Lesnar was really the most intrigued that I've been in the Kofi Kingston reign. And even if he was going to lose it, I was excited to see what him and Brock could do together in a big title match. And what the fuck happened? Kofi Kingston gets beat in 6 seconds like he's just any other jabroni. Like he's just another guy. All just so we could build to what is obviously more important in the Cain Velasquez debut. This was bullshit, man. Absolute bullshit. How you could not do something, be it a 5-minute match, a 10-minute match. I was hoping it would be a 20-minute main event. That they would clear enough time to be able to do it. And, you know, there was stuff on this show that we didn't need. The lumberjack match didn't need to be as long as it was. You know, there's plenty of stuff that could have been trimmed in order to make this into a big fight feel. And what pisses me off the most about this is that I don't know what this show is going to do in the ratings. It's possible it could do as much as 3.5 to 4 million viewers. And there are a lot of viewers that will be joining this that haven't watched WWE religiously, or maybe even possibly they haven't watched WWE in a long time. But the name value is there. The Rock and Brock Lesnar in the main event, they decide to give it another try. And your main event is a 6 or a 10-second match, whatever you want to call it. And Brock just squashes the guy. So now, that viewer knows that Kofi Kingston sucks. all this does is show to that person, like, geez, how the fuck did this guy hold the title for 6 months? How was this guy even champion? He just got beaten 10 seconds. He jumped and put himself on top of Brock's shoulders. And that was it. This was awful. I can't fathom the ineptitude to be able to put this match on last, to build it as something important, and then just have Brock beat the guy in 10 seconds. This was a funeral for Kofi Kingston, because I imagine that this will be the last time that we see Kofi as WWE Champion ever. Most likely. And with that in mind, to not have him go out as a fighting champion and be able to go toe-to-toe with Lesnar and put on a good match, and even if just for a moment, be able to make us think that he had the chance of winning, then to be beaten by Lesnar. But instead, Brock Lesnar hit a move, and that was it. Now, we'll get into what happened after this. Rey Mysterio's music hits. Rey walks out, not with Dominic, but with Cain Velasquez. It's been heavily reported that AEW and WWE had been in contact, and not even heavily reported, it was from the horse's mouth, Cain Velasquez, that they were both interested. Cain has went with WWE, and you can see why. I'm sure him and Brock are going to have a big money match, or whatever a big money match is in 2019. And that's fine. You could have done both things. You could have had this happen after Brock narrowly defeated Kofi Kingston in a hard-fought match. But, no. So now, Kofi is an afterthought in all of this. He's nowhere to be found. So Cain comes out. Brock looks like he's scared to death because Velasquez is the one who beat him for the UFC title all those years ago. Velasquez does a double leg takedown and rains down fist before Brock rolls out of the ring and gets out of dodge. There was a few minutes left on TV, so they just kind of ended up staring at each other from in the ring to the outside of the ring, and Brock would act like he's going to come in and not, and just have Heyman hold the title up. Yeah, and, I was so ready to like this show, because there is a lot of good things to come from it. There was a lot of freshness. It felt new. It felt exciting. There was enough good stuff. But this ending just left a sour taste. And it's just unfortunate. It's unfortunate that Kofi, after the last 6 months, that you've treated this guy as your top champion on SmackDown, that you've protected him, he hasn't taken losses, he has beaten everyone that's come after him. But then to do this. And that's a damn shame, if you ask me. And fully expected Brock to win. I had no problem with Brock winning. I accepted it. I accepted that it is, in fact, the best move to have Brock win. But this was not the right way to do it. Now, Cain Velasquez, I got no problem with that. I think it'll be a fine program, but at the same time, we could have done Brock versus Cain Velasquez and not needed a title. That match sells itself. Kind of like Brock Lesnar versus Goldberg would have sold itself without a title at WrestleMania 33. But in that case, we needed the Universal title for whatever reason, and in this case, we need the WWE title for whatever reason. So, Brock's the champion, and with that always comes hate. Even though I was ready to enjoy it, the way they did it just pissed me off too much. And hopefully they go with my idea of when I did the draft predictions. Hopefully they have Big E end up on a singles run and go after Lesnar himself. I mean, that would be a silver lining in this case, because this still sucked. Sucked! And with that out of the way, we'll get into the rest of the show. We opened up with Stephanie and Vince. Vince McMahon's music hits. They welcome us to history, and that kicks to the intro. Which looked fucking stellar, by the way. This intro was great. The graphics, the music. I liked everything about the intro. People might say that this intro could spoil the draft next week, but I don't think it did. Because, like, if you look at the people on this intro, like, there are obviously Raw people, like Rollins, Strowman. But another thing is, like, they had all 4 of the 4 horsewomen on this. Charlotte, Sasha, Bayley, and Becky. I highly doubt that all 4 of them are going to get drafted to SmackDown. Very much doubt that. So, take that intro with a pinch of salt as to who is going to be where. They could easily change the intro just to switch people around. So, I don't think that spoiled anything. It could still go anyway, but I definitely don't think that all 4 of those women are going to be on SmackDown, because if they are, I don't know what the fuck Raw has left. Speaking of, Becky Lynch's music hits as the true opener of this. Says, goes back to her roots with SmackDown, says this show is in her blood. Says, let's start this off right by kicking someone's ass. Baron Corbin interrupts. I always forget it's Corbin when it starts off with that King royalty music. Corbin cuts promo, asks Becky if she really thinks she's still the man. Corbin enters the ring, and then, boom. The Rock's music hits. Rock comes out, makes the long way to the ring, talks about how he started SmackDown with the phrase that he came up with of laying the SmackDown. And here we are, years later. You know, Rock, you know, he does the same thing, and that's not to say it's a bad thing, but he does his whole shtick. He says Corbin looks like a broke-ass Burger King on crack. Take of that what you will. Corbin says this isn't The Rock's home anymore, and Corbin claims to be the most electrifying king in sports entertainment. Rock then informs Corbin that just because he won King of the Ring doesn't mean he has to dress like a 35-year-old virgin at Comic-Con. I'm sure that was triggering for some people. And the parallel, he says, is that Becky Lynch is the man, but you don't see her carrying around a pair of testicles with her. And that's when Becky chimes in and says if she did, they would be much bigger than Corbin's. which Corbin had. Corbin had the line where he said that his testicles were adequate. Becky and The Rock, they team together and do the "it doesn't matter what you think" thing to Corbin, and eventually they just both beat up on Corbin. We get a people's elbow, a rock bottom, and that's it. So, this was cool. The idea is to give Becky the rub from The Rock, and can't say it didn't work. But when we do this stuff, it just becomes so patently obvious that The Rock is so much better at doing this than everyone else that it makes everyone else look shitty. And that's not their faults. It's mostly because The Rock can do whatever the fuck he wants. Those guys gotta walk on eggshells. I'm sure there would be a lot of guys that could maybe not be The Rock, but be a better version of themselves if they had the chance to have the same freedom on the microphone as The Rock does. So after this, we get Charlotte and Becky versus Bayley and Banks. As Chris predicted in our predictions for this show, the SmackDown on Fox show, Charlotte does end up beating Bayley. She taps her out with the figure 4 into the figure 8, and I'm assuming that's going to set up a Hell in a Cell match. That wasn't announced on this show. I'm pretty sure no matches were announced on this show, so we're still sitting at 3 matches. So maybe that'll be what happens, but this is also the second time, and the 2 times that they've done this exact same match in the past couple months, and both times Bayley has eaten the fall. Take of that what you will. Now we cut to Erin Andrews, who is going to play as our backstage interviewer for today, the Fox NFL sideline reporter. And she did an interview with New Day, which was cool. If only they let their full-time interviewers have personality like Erin actually had, then things might be a little bit better. Seth Rollins comes out to the ring. The Firefly Funhouse is going to interrupt him. Bray, and I'm just thinking the whole time, I'm curious how the Firefly Funhouse resonates with, people that might be watching this stuff for the first time. I'm curious what those people would think of this, because it's so unique. And so Bray, he introduces all of his friends of the puppets on the Firefly Funhouse: Abby the Witch, Mercy the Buzzard, Huskus the Pig Boy, and Ramblin' Rabbit. Ramblin' Rabbit has Seth Rollins merch on. Tells Seth how big a fan of him he is, but he warns him not to get in the ring, not to get in the cell with the Fiend. So Bray decides to hold a mock match where Rambling Rabbit will play the role of Seth Rollins and Mercy the Buzzard will play the role of the Fiend. And he has like a little Hell in a Cell sort of thing, and they both get trapped inside. And if you remember, in one of the very first episodes, Mercy was trying to eat Rambling Rabbit. And so, on this, he ate Rambling Rabbits. The way they did it, like, there's stuffing just flying out. Like a ridiculous amount of stuffing that's just, like, getting thrown in Bray's face off from where they actually are. And so, Rambling Rabbit has now died for the second time in 1 week. R.I.P., my friend. Gone but not forgotten. And so after that, Bray just does the whole serious parts, gets all ominous, and then does the "see you in hell." And that's it. That leads to Rollins versus Nakamura. This goes a couple minutes before the lights start going out, and The Fiend makes his entrance. Puts Rollins in the mandible claw on the stage, and just chucks Rollins off the stage. And that was it. So that was our final little build into their Hell in a Cell match. We get Owens versus Shane McMahon, Kevin Owens. Owens didn't even get an entrance. Like, he was already in the ring when they came back. This match was exactly what it should have been. There was like 3 or 4 high spots, and other than that, that was really like all the match was. Shane does his leap of faith through the announce table to Kevin Owens, the little elbow drop gimmick. Then it goes to a commercial. As soon as we come back, and I mean as soon as we come back, Owens is doing a frog splash to Shane, who is on a ladder that is propped up between the barricade and the ring. And Owens puts him through the ladder with the frog splash. Owens tries to climb up and get the briefcase. Shane comes back in with a ladder. Ends up hitting a coast-to-coast with the ladder. He tries to climb up, but Owens catches him into a powerbomb onto a ladder that was propped up on the turnbuckle. Shane bounces in the air. Owens climbs up, gets the briefcase, and wins. He then picks up Shane, says, "You're fired," and hits him with the Stone Cold Stunner. Exactly what it should have been, and exactly what it should have been months ago. Without going through all this needless garbage of lawyers and fines and everything they did to go out of their way to kill Kevin Owens before they finally gave it back to him at the end. But I'll tell you what, I don't think this reaction was anywhere near the reaction that Kevin Owens got at SummerSlam. And I think that tells you something. He's not as over as he was back then. And that's not to say that won't change, but they very much derailed the momentum that Owens had going into that show. We have an 8-man tag, Braun Strowman and Heavy Machinery and The Miz versus Dolph Ziggler and Bobby Roode, AJ Styles, and Randy Orton. Match breaks down quick. Everyone's in the ring doing finishers to each other and then taking each other out of the ring. Braun does his whole run around the ring thing where he shoulder tackles everyone. Braun playfully acts like he wants to fight Tyson Fury, who is in the crowd. Braun ends up throwing Dolph Ziggler into Tyson Fury. Then gets Ziggler in the ring, hits him with a power slam, and gets the win. So after this, Tyson Fury jumps the guardrail and is surrounded by security, and that's it. So, unlike when Rob Gronkowski jumped the barricade, when Tyson Fury jumped the barricade, I guess now it's a problem. I don't know if they're going to set up a match with Strowman and Fury, or if this was just, like, something to generate buzz. Could be either. I mean, I don't know. But I don't really have much else to say on it. I mean, I'm not really into UFC that much, so, like, I know Tyson Fury, but I don't really know him, per se. So, we'll just see where it goes, if it actually leads to something. I mean, that sort of special attraction match is something I feel like Braun could really benefit from, if it's done right. Because, you know, all the failed title matches he's had, he could use something where he could have a big match that's not for a title against someone outside of WWE that has a name like Tyson. That leads to Daniel Bryan joining commentary for the Roman Reigns versus Eric Rowan match. This was the big thing that I just felt like if we went without this and just went into the Brock Lesnar and Kofi match, then that would have been much better. But this is a lumberjack match. Luke Harper is going to try to interfere. not as one of the lumberjacks, but from the back. He goes in during a double down. Roman and Rowan are both down. Rowan ends up doing a Superman dive, taking out everyone, all the lumberjacks and whatnot. Roman hits a Superman punch on Rowan in the ring. Luke Harper tries to come in, but Bryan takes him out with a running knee. Rowan tries to claw slam Bryan, but eats a spear from Reigns, and Reigns gets the win. So, that was whatever. And, after that, Bryan and Roman, they shake hands, and that was all good, but I think they could have done that without the whole match. Just really... And only because it took away from... Sorry. Only because it took away from what they could have done with the Kofi and Lesnar match. But obviously, it didn't matter because they didn't give a fuck to put time in that match. So, it wasn't going to make a difference either way. And that was SmackDown. Yeah, because that was the last thing before the main event, which I already went over in the beginning. So there you go. Brock Lesnar is your champion again. We'll see where it goes going forward. I don't know what their plan is with Lesnar, because you would think they want to build him for big TV matches, because it's the SmackDown on Fox deal that you would want to build him up for big matches on television, but I just don't know. I mean, I have no faith in anything after tonight on the Lesnar front, but we'll see where it goes going forward. We'll be here on the channel for all that. We'll be back for Raw on Monday, AEW, NXT, and SmackDown again, and Hell in a Cell is this Sunday. We'll be back for that as well. That'll be up Sunday night at some point. And, I don't know what we're going to get with Hell in a Cell because there's still only 3 matches. So, we'll see. It could end up being an 11-match card out of nowhere. But we'll be here to review whatever they put out. The forgotten son of WWE or wrestling shows this week, with all the premieres and all that poppycock, as Bray Wyatt would say. But thank you for watching. We'll be back later.